All right. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about over $100 silver. Steve Penny is joining us from Silver Chartist, and he was telling me a little bit ago, he actually believes that silver has the potential to head to numbers such as $300. And that sounds like quite an incredible number. And so we're going to have Steve break down why investing in silver is important to him and why he thinks we're going to see these types of astronomical numbers in the price of silver per ounce. And so Steve is actually the creator of an amazing newsletter. It's called Silver Chartist. The link to it is right there down below. It's a free newsletter. He talks about the overall macro environment, gold, silver, and mining stocks, gold and silver mining stocks and other commodities. And he breaks down what he's buying, what he's selling, why he's buying this, why he's not buying this. And you get the inside scoop of exactly how to make maximum returns and participate in this wealth transfer as we have massive global currency devaluation. So if you are interested in that, it's free. It's a fantastic newsletter. It's right there down below in the description and comments, Silver Chartist, right there down below. Make sure you hit the like button on this side right over there or this side right over there, and comment down below your all-time silver price prediction. What is your all-time silver price prediction? Steve just told me his was, he says he thinks it might be able to go to $300. So give me yours right there down below. I want to give a special shout out to our channel sponsor, which is Vizsla Silver. So thank you, Vizsla Silver. If you're looking for a mining stock, be sure to check out Vizsla Silver. All right, I'm out of breath, Steve. So, $300 silver. Why do you say that?
Well, hey, first, thanks again for having me on. And you mentioned the newsletter. I really appreciate you giving all the kind words. This newsletter was actually launched on your show kind of inadvertently back in October of 2020. So really appreciate that. We did create a link just for your members. So, there's some extras in there from silverchartistreport.com if anyone wants to check that out. But yeah, $300 silver, it sounds crazy. There's a lot of people out there who throw out these crazy sensational claims because it gets a lot of clicks and it gets a lot of attention. And there's really not much backing or logic to, they just make up these numbers. And I really don't like to mention these numbers because I don't want to get lumped in with those folks. But $300 silver around the year 2026 would simply be the average of the previous two bull markets. So it's just an average. And to suggest $300 silver would be a muted replay of the 1970s run. It would actually be a downplayed. And to be honest with you, if we're being honest, I think we're going to see an amplified replay of that. I think all the problems we're facing now are much worse than the 70s and the run from 1999 to 2011. So how do I get to that number? It's just an average of the previous two bull markets. And we could talk more about that if you want. But
you're taking from top to bottom on the past ones and putting an average?
Exactly. Yeah, I take the exact low tick and the exact high tick. Now, of course, nobody's going to get the exact low tick and high tick, but if you measure it that way, that projects $300 silver on the low end. On the low end, that's using a 50-to-1 gold to silver ratio. I think that ratio is going to be much lower than that.
So, do you think that at a point like that silver could be kind of decoupled as a monetary metal? And at that point, due to the amount of tech and the EVs and renewables, do you think that it could be more focused exclusively at that due to the price jump and the scarcity of it?
Yeah, I think silver, it's actually been a monetary metal longer than gold, believe it or not. And going back in history, I like to study the Bible too. And, silver is always mentioned before gold. It's silver and gold. Literally in a lot of languages, the word silver is money. They're synonymous. So I don't think silver is ever going to lose its monetary role. However, I do believe that silver will go into a speculative mania, much like Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies. That's why I track those markets so closely. So I think silver is ripe for a speculative mania and a blow off top, followed by a massive pullback. That's why I'll be scaling, from silver to gold as that ratio compresses. But I do think so.
Why do you think that it could have a mania like that?
Well, one historical precedent. It did that in the 70s. It did that in, you could argue 2011 when it went from like 30 up to 50 in a very short period of time. and it's ripe. It's got all the things that made Bitcoin this, go parabolic. Silver carries all of those properties. It's finite. It's money. It's a global commodity that's outside of the banking system, and there's no replacement for it. So it's just ripe for a speculative mania. If just a very small percentage of the population said, "Hey, I just want a little bit of silver," good luck getting it.
Why do you think silver's mentioned before gold in the Bible?
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly. You know, I like to think that gold is for like long-term wealth preservation, but silver would be for like transactions, throughout history, because it's a little bit more plentiful. It's about, 9 or 10 times more plentiful in the Earth's crust. So, it's more liquid and more practical for everyday transactions. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go back to transacting in silver, but just historically speaking, I think that's probably why.
So, why do you think that the gold to silver ratio shifted so much? How did silver come to be so undervalued? And we've really only had these 25, mid 20s, high 20s prices for a little while. I mean, silver was $15 for a really long time. Why?
Yeah, it really is bizarre. I mean, I remember looking at the gold to silver ratio when it got around 85 to 90, saying, wow, this is crazy, and I actually started selling a little bit of gold for silver. And then that ratio went to 123 to 1 in March of last year. In all of history, I don't think we've ever seen that, ever. Now, so that's a historic anomaly. I actually sold almost all of my gold to buy silver and silver miners during that period. So why that happened? I think probably one obvious answer is banker manipulation. So that's one reason. And then another thing to note with that gold to silver ratio that we look at, we're looking at the paper ratio. So, back when silver fell to like $12 in March of 2020, you couldn't get any physical metal for that price. You're paying $15, $16 an ounce or more, probably actually a little more. So the real ratio was a little bit lower than that.
What do you think about silver versus gold from a speculative standpoint? In that, I wonder if there's a point at which, because I wonder, will gold ever rise to the value that it should be at? And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, it may be that it's always contained as a way to, it's a psyop game to make people think that there's more stability in government currencies than there really are, and it's easy for them to control. Now, I wonder about silver, if there's a point at which, and I can't see why it serves them to manipulate the price of silver long term. And so I wonder, is there a point at which, when the price of silver can truly find a blow off top, or where the powers that be are actually essentially promoting or on the long side of silver?
Yeah, and those are fair questions, and a lot of people don't want to invest in silver because it's obviously a manipulated market. What do you want to invest in something that's manipulated for? And one comment you said there is, will gold ever rise to its full value? To steal a Mike Maloney quote, he says that throughout all of human history, gold and silver always do a full accounting for the expansion of debt-based fiat currency 100% of the time. So it's a cycle. He calls it the 7 stages of empire. And part of this final phase here is, governments just inflate everything away, trying to appease the populace. And then eventually gold does a full accounting for that. So will this time be different? I highly, highly doubt it. And then silver, you can manipulate paper assets theoretically in perpetuity, but silver is a physical asset. It's used in industry. Wait till Samsung and General Electric and Tesla and all these big companies, sense an actual supply shortage. Eventually, if this continues, you'll be pitting industry against these banks, which will inevitably result in true price discovery.
Can you explain a little bit more about that Mike Maloney quote? I think also it sounds like you've really studied his 7 stages of the empire that he discussed. That'd be a fun topic for us to talk about in another video. If you'd like to see that, give us a comment down below. but can you explain what you mean by doing a full accounting for the debt-based monetary system?
Sure. So back in like 1980, they created all this currency, right? I don't know the numbers, but you would take a nation's currency supply, divide it by the nation's gold holdings, and that ends up being the price of gold. And if you did that arithmetic back in 1980, that number came out to 850, which was the exact price that gold peaked at. And you could do the same thing back in 1933 when they revalued gold higher. Take the currency supply divided by the total gold holdings, and there's your number, roughly $35 an ounce. You can go back throughout all of history and do that for different countries, different civilizations, going back millennia.
One question that I've wondered about in my head is we see, China, Russia, Turkey, the list is pretty endless of countries that are either buying a lot of gold or they're trying to repatriate it from a certain location. And yeah, it's pretty obvious that they're buying a lot of it while the price is down. But I wonder about silver, especially with China, because China, supposedly has 400 million pounds of uranium reserves as well. They are buying, copper mines and all these mines all over Africa. How do you think they view silver?
Well, it's a small market, so it doesn't make as much sense for them to put it on their balance sheet as like, a reserve asset like it does gold. But, as a strategic metal that's used in industry in, this electrification trend, yeah, they're going to want to secure as much future supply as they possibly can. And we see China doing that now. And it's not out of the question either that countries do begin accumulating physical as a reserve holding as well. It's a smaller market, so it doesn't make as much sense for them to do that.
Interesting. And so essentially to you then, silver is the slingshot that moves with gold, or can silver move without gold?
Oh, it can certainly move without gold. And we're already seeing a little bit, some early signs of that with the silver squeeze movement. We saw silver really rocket higher in the beginning of February. And of course, they came in and crushed price, even as demand was going through the roof and supply isn't increasing, which makes no sense at all for price to fall in that environment. But, we saw silver start to rise while gold really hadn't done much. In fact, in the last year, silver has outperformed gold by almost a factor of 2, as that gold silver ratio came down from like 123 down to a low of like 65. So that's almost half. So I think we're already starting to see that.
And where's that ratio at right now?
Roughly 67, 68, something like that.
And where do you think it can go?
Historically, at bull market peaks, that ratio peaks about 15-1. That's where it peaked in 1980. That's where it was in about 1933 when they revalued gold. And that's a good historic number to look for. And another number to look for is silver is pulled out of the ground at a ratio of roughly 8-1. So there's it's roughly 18 times more plentiful in the ground. So I'm looking for at least, 15-1 gold to silver ratio. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to hold all my silver until then, because, that could be a very quick event and then it comes back down.
So how does the industrial, or you said the electrification of the world, how does this affect silver, do you estimate?
I look at industrial demand for silver as a tailwind. However, it's not like my primary investment thesis, because you can kind of model out the industrial demand and future growth and all this, and you can kind of account for that. But what investors and the market can't really account for is that change in psychological shift when all of the sudden, a small percentage of the population wants to get some silver. That's what's going to throw the whole supply demand equation way out of whack, that will need to be resolved with higher prices.
And so silver becomes that metal because it's cheaper, and so you get more of a bump from retail, from ordinary people, or what?
Exactly. That's the psychology behind it. A lot of people just want to buy gold initially. That's, they're debasing the currency. Let's go buy some gold. Well, if gold's $3,000 an ounce, or even $2,000, really, that's out of reach for a lot of average everyday people. So then they hear about silver and say, oh, this is $30, $40 an ounce, or even 50 or 60. I can afford a couple of those. So that's the mindset. You can even see that like in the cryptocurrencies. I don't invest in those, but I study them just because I think silver and gold are going to do similar things. Bitcoin gets too expensive, and then people go into these altcoin things. it's the same kind of logic will apply to the metals market.
Interesting. Yeah. So you're saying that basically in the same way that as Bitcoin becomes more expensive, you see a similar process in the movement to smaller market caps. And you're saying that you estimate the movement from gold to silver stocks following a similar pattern.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Your average person's going to at some point say, I can't afford an ounce of gold. I'll get some silver. And then, even when silver gets too expensive or unobtainable, actually, imagine living in Venezuela. Good luck getting some physical silver. The next thing place you look is, mining stocks. You can buy silver in the ground. So that's kind of the sequence. See gold go first, then silver, then the mining stocks.
What is your percentage allocation of gold to silver?
This is excessive for most people, but I own roughly 1,000 ounces of silver for every ounce of gold. So whatever that ratio comes out to be.
And how about mining stocks? What do you think is more attractive, gold or silver?
Right now, silver mining stocks for sure, if you have a longer term time horizon.
How long do you think a time horizon is?
Here's my thought process on that. Over the next, let's call it year to 2 years, I think silver stocks will handily outperform gold miners. However, like I said, that gold silver ratio has come down really far, really fast. So it wouldn't be too surprising to see gold kind of maybe outperform silver just a little bit here in the short term. I'm not predicting that, but it's possible. But over the longer term, I think that gold silver ratio is going to come down a lot, and that makes the silver mining stocks much, much more attractive to me personally.
So on the electrification front, one of the things that to me I'm curious to watch play out is basically what governments do now that they locked everyone in their houses, took away everyone's jobs, and people don't have any money, is basically they're going to have to go hardcore on this electrification thing and try to get people a bunch of jobs, I would think. And they're going to do it, I would imagine, with renewables. How strong of an impact do you think that it could have? You said that you think that it won't be a cause, but what do you think could happen in an environment like that? Do you think that as the price moves, then that's when you think maybe from an industrial side, more of them are getting involved in buying and securing the annual supply? Once you get a movement in the price, why do you think that it hasn't happened yet?
So just to clarify the question, why do I think like industry hasn't, gone and secured more physical silver because of this electrification movement? Yeah, I think, this idea, I'm sure most of your listeners are familiar that silver is manipulated. There's multiple claims of ownership for every ounce on the COMEX. It's debatable how many claims of ownership and all that. But I think once industry senses that there's an actual supply shortage here, they're going to rush, they're going to run, not walk, to secure that physical as much as they can. So when that happens, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think we're much closer to the end than the beginning. And the silver squeeze movement really has some legs. And this is a process. A lot of people want the silver squeeze to send silver to the moon tomorrow. I look at it as more of a steady grind. If retail investors just continue to accumulate physical silver on a regular basis, that's going to accelerate the process of, industry waking up to this supply shortage as well.
So give us in conclusion here, what is the best place, in your opinion, to be investing in silver? Is it in producers? Is it in exploration? Is it in development? What's the best buys right now in silver?
It depends on how much time you have to study it and to watch it and to have an exit strategy. Like if you just want to set it and forget it, just go buy the ETF. There's some ETFs out there. I think you can greatly outperform the ETFs with just a little bit of extra work, or not to plug our own newsletter, but we help people with that if you want to outperform the ETF. So it really depends on how much work you want to put in. Rick Rule frequently says, for every exploration stock you own in your portfolio, you should have about an hour a month to keep up with all the news and drill results and all that. So if you don't have that time, there's plenty of good newsletters out there that can help you with that, and you can kind of outsource that due diligence.
So for anyone that wants to sign up to his free newsletter, it's right there down below in the description, in the comments, right there down below. Awesome stuff from macroeconomics to looking at the ins and outs of gold, silver, and mining stocks. You'll see the link in the description and pinned to the comments right there down below. Give us your silver price prediction in the comments right there down below. And make sure you hit the like button on this video to send it out to more people. Subscribe and bell notification to get notified for new videos. And Steve, it's good to have you on.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.